Good morning. Hey, y'all. Lisa Davis here. And today we want to talk about housing prices. We're going to be keeping our eyes on a lot of things as the new year starts and as this administration takes over. Just going to keep looking at things that impact your wallets, your livelihood, your family. And today I want to talk about housing because I've read an interesting article today. Let me see if I can pull it up. Um, because finally we're getting some conversation around the cost of houses. Now, I want to make sure that these conversations don't go in the route of let's cut costs on how we build houses because I did see an article this morning about that, and I guess I want to get your thoughts on that too. Um, but let me pull up this article. Why can't I get back onto my stream? Let's pull up this article so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious to me. I never scrolled down, so I never could find all of the tabs that were out there. Oh my gosh. Let me find this one that I just pulled open. Where is it? Google List right here. This is how you know you have too many tabs open when you can't find the one that you just opened. So you can pull it up on the live stream. Oh, it was right at the top. So I found this article and I thought it was interesting. There are a couple of things about this article that I want to talk about. So it says, Wall Street thinks U.S. homes are too expensive, which is kind of what I've been talking about for a while now. And they are. This says the average home price in the U.S. is $500,000. And that was reported out the third quarter of 2024. Well, here we are in a new year. So, it can only hopefully we get it under control. But that's a lot of money for anybody that's trying to break into home ownership. We're talking starter prices. We're talking when our parents bought their first home, they paid 25,000. When I bought my first home, I paid 100,000, and my kids are looking at a starter home. I want to say between 300 and 500,000, depending on where you live. Because East Coast, I feel like, or Midwest, you might can get a starter home for about $300,000. 500,000 is the average across the country, and that's just a lot of money when wages haven't gone up. I always go back to kids are still graduating college with $100,000 in debt and getting a $50,000 or $60,000 salary when they graduate college, but yet housing is $500,000 average price across the country, and rent 2,000 to 4,000 across the country. These are a month. These are prices that young people are faced with that is debilitating for them when we want to scream, you got to budget, you got to save. There's not enough budgeting and saving for somebody that's making $60,000 a year to afford these prices, whether it's $2,000 for rent or a $300,000 or a $500,000 home. It just begs to say that if they do opt in to having their own place to live, they're really not going to have a lot of money left over to do other things and have a good quality of life. Starter homes have historically been the way that you could build wealth in this country. It was the American dream. It was what people aspired to. It was a good reason why people went to college so they could earn more income, so they could get a home. And now the question becomes what happened and why is this dream or this way that you can build wealth in America gotten away from being affordable? And what are the options to make sure first time home buyers, not somebody like me that had bought several homes, but a first time home buyer can actually enter in to the home ownership market successfully, right? You figure if you're talking a $300,000 to $500,000 home, you need at least $20,000 in the bank, and that's not even putting down 20% so that you can escape mortgage insurance. That's just putting down the bare minimum with closing costs. In order to get away from a charge, it's a monthly fee that we call mortgage insurance, and it ensures that the mortgage is paid by paying the insurance on the mortgage debt, so that if anything happens, that insurance company will kick in and pay the rest of the debt off, right? In order to get away from mortgage insurance, which is a monthly cost, you have to put down 20%. So if you're buying a house for $500,000, that means you have to put down $100,000. Now, who has saved up $100,000 for their first home without parental help, without help from their parents, right? What young person in their 20s or early 30s has had even time to save up 20% on a $300,000 or $500,000 home? So it's just a lot right now. And so this article says, well, let's look here. It says these are the rising costs from the data found. See why wants to become. Oh, well, I can't finish reading that article. It's not letting me. That's okay. So what's driving these costs up? So we've got a few things that we want to look at. What is making housing so expensive? Supply and demand. That's what the new administration is coming in to say. There's not enough stock out here. So they want to look at options to build more housing, to make sure there's enough stock options out here. Stock as far as housing stock, right? We're going to take this out. Housing stock, right? They're talking about building new houses. So I saw another article today. Let me see if I could pull it up. That was giving examples of the kind of housing they wanted to buy. And this is modular housing going to be the next big thing, right? I saw an article that modular housing is growing in popularity. So let me see where this is at. And a modular house means that they build it in the warehouse. They manufacture it somewhere else in a factory, and they bring it on site already created. And so the biggest real estate company in the U.S. is soaring. Here is why. I don't think that was the article I was reading. And I just don't want to see us lose quality for our younger generation. I don't want to see us lose quality and start not offering as much as we were offering for the other generations, for this younger generation. So some of the things that we think about are what's driving the costs up, supply and demand, so not enough housing, how much it costs to build the housing. It says post-pandemic, we saw a surge in demand, but not enough inventory to keep up, and that drove prices higher. And then land scarcity in urban areas is also driving prices up, making it difficult to build affordable starter homes. And so that means the younger generation needs to move further out. And that's going to be difficult to move further out in a climate where now they're saying they want to bring everybody back into the office to work, right? That means there's going to be larger commutes for people to get to work if they've got to move farther out in order to afford a stable housing environment, somewhere where they can afford to live. And then the high impact of, let's not forget the impact of high rates. So rates right now are about 7%, maybe 5 to 7%. And so higher rates means that the payment is higher than if the rates were lower. So we're going to see where the mortgage rates go within the next 3 months. The Fed has said that they are going to look at interest rates cuts in March. We're going to see if they hold out to March, if they're going to do something sooner than that. But we need to find out where the interest rates are going to go and how low does the Fed think they can take them, right? And it's very interesting that Wall Street, who manages the hedge funds and stocks and all those things, is taking a notice at how expensive housing is and what investors are saying starter homes are and what that opportunity is looking like for rental income, and why are investors now pulling back. It's becoming too expensive for some investors to invest in stable communities to provide rental housing. And so we need to think about, like, how are homes becoming less profitable as prices rise? Well, if prices are rising in an area where the rent can't suffice the cost of how much an investor has to purchase that house for, then that investor is losing a lot of money renting those homes out. Or it'll get to a point where the rent will be so expensive you might not be able to find a tenant. Many millennials and Gen Z buyers are being pushed into the rental market, though. This has been a fact for the last 5 years, and this delays their home ownership opportunities well into their 30s or 40s. And in some cases, some millennials and Gen Z are saying they don't mind. They don't mind. They don't even want the responsibility of being homeowners. In fact, as a lender, I ran across a young person, a millennial, that had bought their home in their early 30s, and the thought about, they bought their home, but they didn't like being a homeowner. They didn't like having to be responsible for taking out the trash. These were the things that she said. She didn't like to take out the trash. She didn't like to worry about the lawn. She didn't like to worry about the snow care. She didn't like to worry about home maintenance. She just did not want to be responsible for all of the things that came with home ownership. And so she eventually sold her home and rented an apartment. She liked the convenience of having a landlord that would take care of any repairs that need to be done. She had her parking space. She had a guaranteed parking space. She didn't have to worry about outside maintenance or any of those things. And she just said it was just really overwhelming to deal with all of the things that came and that were involved with owning a home. And so we have to think about that as well. And what can we do? We're also seeing a rise in multi-generational households, with people opting to live with family to save money. And so the question asks, what can we do as a community, as a country? What can we do to address this crisis around affordable housing? What can be done? What are some incentives for builders to create starter homes and increase housing supply? Could there be some mortgage relief programs or incentives for first-time home buyers that could also help level the playing field? I do know for a fact here in Michigan, we've got a lot of first-time home buyer programs that offer down payment assistance and financial literacy and budgeting management classes. And in some cases, people can get up to $40,000 here in Michigan to buy a home. That is significant. That is your down payment and your closing costs and extra money that you can use to either buy down the rate or buy down the principal. So these are some of the incentives that we need to start thinking about and making sure they're available across the country to make sure that Gen Z and millennials that want to buy a house can afford to buy a house, because housing is very expensive. But let's understand that when you do own your own home, there is a sense of stability, foundational stability that you have. Like, this is a place where nobody could ever raise the rent. Nobody could ever take this from you. Nobody could ever cancel your lease. The only way you would get kicked out is for non-payment, right? And so it gives a person a real strong sense of foundational stability, and it's a great way to build wealth in this country. So wanted to know what your thoughts were around the housing prices, housing stock, what developers are going to have to go through. What do you think about modular homes that are going to be created in a factory and brought over to a plot of land? And then that begs the question, if we've got land scarcity, how do people find land to have a modular home brought in and dumped on their property? So these are things we have to think about. They have announced the temporary admin for the Department of Housing and Urban Development at HUD. So that person has been announced while they're waiting for Scott Taylor to be confirmed for the job at HUD. And so he's got some crazy ideas on how he's going to create or make housing more affordable. So we're going to see what his agenda is going to be once he gets confirmed. And we're going to go from there, but we're going to keep watching it, because housing is very important. And it's important for our young people to know that this country does care whether they buy a house or not, whether they get that opportunity to build generational wealth, and whether they get that opportunity to have stability, a foundational stability in the way that they live and start their life for the starter home. So my name is Lisa Davis. I hope to catch you later today at 5. I will not be here because I have an engagement tonight. So I will not be here tonight at 5, but I will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with some hot topics. And if you got things you want me to talk about, drop them in the chat, drop them in the comment section, and I will be ready to talk about them. I'll look through them and I'll talk about them as the time comes. So talk to you guys later. Bye.